Hi friends, we're here for another pick a card reading. I feel like the theme from all of the cards seems to be honoring yourself, listening to your intuition, respecting yourself. Themes like that is definitely what we're getting today. So I'm going to title the video something to do with that for people who maybe are feeling a misdirection. But we have 3 different piles that we're going to choose from. I'll show you the cards. Some of you guys might have found me from TikTok or from Instagram or from my shorts about promoting this video. So you might already have a card in mind. If you do, you can just scroll down. I'm going to have it in the description. You can go straight to that card. If you want to look at the other cards and maybe decide like, oh, actually 2 of these align with me, or actually I was drawn here by one card, but that other one is really calling to me, then, then you can change your response. But it really just depends on you and, listen to your intuition. So for group 1 here, I have bear. The theme behind this is opportunity, and the affirmation is, I am ready when the moment arrives. See if that one resonates with you. Card number 2, I have cat. The theme is self-care, and the affirmation is, I honor my well-being and treat myself with respect. And then the third card we have here is crow. The theme is, I wrote notes. The theme is messenger. I pay attention to clues from the universe. If any of those particularly align to you, then you can go and select them right now. I'm going to go ahead and jump into group 1. So for group 1, like I said, we have bear. I am ready when the moment arrives. Some other notes I wrote here is saves its energy for when the moment is right. Like whenever they're in the stream, they just stand around and they wait for the perfect moment to go fishing. Opportunities always present themselves, but we may not be ready. We might be distracted, or worse, we might not notice them at all. I think a lot of us suffer with that. A lot of us are so focused on the suffering of life, honestly. Like so many of us are so focused on the fact that things aren't working out and they aren't going how we want them to go. So then we just think that good things are just like not going to happen in general. So you just like don't see opportunities when they present themselves. I think a lot of us are like victims of that, right? And then I have become more present and aware and go toward the opportunities. Something in the little guidebook I had with this card is that they wait around for the perfect moment, but they also go to the stream. They don't expect fish to fall out of the sky. They go where they need to hunt, right? So we need to be searching a little bit more for these opportunities and looking for them instead of just expecting them to just like appear out of nowhere for us, right? So the very first card that's going to pop out for us is the 7 of Swords. There's somebody in your life who's being dishonest. They're talking behind your back. They're plotting against you. There's somebody in your life like that. And I get the feeling that this person maybe makes you feel like these opportunities aren't good for you. Maybe they're always telling you can't do it. Or if you do have an opportunity presented, they like make fun of you or something like that. I'm really getting that vibe. A lot of people who change their life through education, a lot of them say whenever they told their parents or they told like their partner or somebody that they wanted to pursue this career path, they were laughed at, and it like made them doubt themselves. But I think whenever someone laughs at you because you have a dream or a goal, it's because they can't imagine it for themselves. The way that they treat each other is a projection. So if somebody's laughing at you because you think that you can be a lawyer, or you think that you can be a teacher, or you think that you can do this or that, it's really just because they can't imagine it for themselves. So they're like, how dare you think that you could have a better life than I have? That's kind of where the vibe comes from. I have 2 of Pentacles here. So there's definitely like an imbalance in your life in this way, is what I'm getting from this card. There's some sort of change that needs to happen, and maybe you're waiting for it, with that bear card. Maybe you're waiting and you keep getting these opportunities, but you keep being like, I don't know. Like maybe you're trying to move out of your parents' house and then like a friend has like a room open, but then you're like, I don't know. Like you just start being like, sometimes we think like, the monster, right? Like you'd rather stay, or the demon, I forget what the phrase is, but you get what I'm saying. It's like you'd rather stay somewhere where what the status quo is than move to a new location where you don't know what might happen. And I think sometimes like it makes sense to do that. Sometimes I think that in like a survival sense, it's smart to do that. You know, it's smart to be like, I don't know what's going to happen in that. So I'd rather just like keep doing this until I can provide for myself and move out of the situation. But I think sometimes it can hold us back too, though. I think a lot of people do this in relationships. Like they'll continue to date somebody who's bad for them because they're like, well, I don't know if there's a better relationship for me out there. I'm always a big proponent of I'd rather be single than abused. So like, I think a lot of people are afraid of that. They don't consider having a relationship with themselves a fulfilling relationship. Like, you don't have to be partnered with somebody to be fulfilled. And so using the staying with the monster, you know, like in pertaining to relationships, I think does not work. It does not fulfill your life, because I can understand it like in a work situation, like this person is like the reason you have housing, you know, or something like that. I can understand in that situation, like, oh, let me continue to work this out until I have another plan that I'm going. That's the whole thing too. Having a plan of exit until you're able to execute that plan. I totally understand staying in a situation that you know is toxic and you know is bad, but it's temporary. You know, I'm going to stay in this job until I find another one. That's fine. I'm going to stay in this romantic relationship until I find another one. It's not viable, because you do not leave yourself open for a new relationship. You're committed to someone else. Even if like maybe the love is gone, maybe that sort of connection is gone, you're still not available for what is coming for you. The only relationship you can really like maintain like that is a relationship with yourself. If you're poly, ignore that advice. I don't know what it's like to be poly, so I can't speak upon that. Just like follow your inner voice and your intuition. But as in like staying in toxic and relationships that are bad for you and that are hurting and harming you because you're like, well, what if I get into a relationship that's worse? Okay, what if you don't? You know, what if instead of being in this crappy relationship that drags you down, this person laughs at you, they talk about bad about you, like whatever. What if instead of that, you were thriving on your own and having the opportunity to meet new friends that encouraged you and make new connections and be fulfilled by your career and be fulfilled by your friendships. And then maybe through that, when you're happy and you're healed, then that'll open you up and present you to the right person who's also happy and also healed, and someone who is where you are and wants to be in the future that you want to have. That is possible. And rather than staying in this toxic situation that is hurting you and stifling you and keeping you from making new connections. I have Ace of Swords here. Discipline and achievement. But I also think that this is the beginning of something new. Some sort of like, whenever I think of swords, you know, I think of intellect and communication, but I also think of Ace of Swords as in like learning how to communicate this new thing that you want. This new thing that you see for yourself. We also have justice and clarity on this card as well. So I think this is like a clarification for you as well. If this message is resonating with you, that whatever thoughts you're having about this situation, this is a clarity that's a good starting point to continue to move in that direction. I have Queen of Swords here. I think you need to be very particular about the conversations you have surrounding this. I think that if you are in a situation with somebody that like Seven of Swords, like if you're living with somebody who is like dishonest and hurting you and sabotaging you, then you're going to have to play it cool. You're going to have to like, what's it called? I think it's called cold rocking. You might have to look it up. It's been a long time since I've used that term, but it's basically like, what is it called? I don't think it's called cold rocking. I'm going to have to look it up. But basically it's different than stonewalling. Like stonewalling is stopping a conversation in its tracks because you did something bad and you don't want to talk about it. This other term is about if somebody is being abusive towards you and they want a reaction from you, right? They're like doing everything they possibly can so that you'll react, because then it feeds their need for attention and their need for validation. And, you know, it's like a kid, you know, like whenever you completely ignore that a child exists and they start to only get attention whenever they're in trouble, then they're going to start acting out because they prefer the negative attention over nothing. Dogs are the same way. Dogs really need validation, and they need a reminder that they exist, you know, like dogs constantly need that reminder, and children do as well. They constantly need that reminder that they exist and that they matter. And so whenever you just like ignore their existence and only pay attention to them whenever they act out, then they're just going to act out. My senior dog that passed earlier this year, later on in his life, he started to just like not even care if he got in trouble or not. Like if he just like was bored, he would just like go do things that he knew would get him in trouble. But because he was old, he just would like wag his tail because he was just happy that people were paying attention to him. You know, like he just eventually started to become like that. I'm laughing because it was just like, it was so cute towards the end, you know what I mean? Because you could tell he just like wanted attention, and it was just like, okay, dude, what do you need? You know what I mean? He just needed more attention as he got older because he was old, you know? And so in these negative situations though, because those are more like heartwarming situations where it's like, okay, like that person does rely on you in that way, but another adult human being does not need constant validation from you. Like what we teach children is to self-soothe as they get older, so that they and to emotionally regulate, so that they're not like constantly looking to validation for other people, like see me, see me, see me, because then that's what turns into this like obsessive behavior, possessive behavior. They start, you know, experiencing limerence with people. If you don't know what limerence is, I would look that up. They start experiencing all these things in relation to relationships because they don't feel like they have a sense of self. They feel very empty inside. And so whenever you're dealing with somebody like this, you're going to have to be really cold towards them, and not in a way where it's like you're being mean. It's more of like, just don't react to anything, positive or negative, you know, because they'll try both. You know, if they do something negative and you don't react, then the next thing they're going to do is be like, I think I'm going to go back to school, you know, or something like that. I think I'm going to finally get a job, you know, and I know it's been stressing you that I haven't had a job in a long time. I think I'm going to finally get a job, you know, or something. And it's just because they just want a reaction, like, oh, okay, cool. You know, that's the way you kind of have to be, is like, oh, you know, I would use it to encourage good behavior, like maybe give them a little bit of like crumbs when they do the things you do want them to do, like, but you're still planning your exit strategy and not giving in, you know what I mean? And I would say do not give in to arguing about this stuff either. Don't give in to like with the playing it cool thing. Don't be like, you know, throwing stuff in their face and things like that. Like, it's just not going to work for you because you're dealing with somebody who is completely dishonest and deceptive. And whenever you're dealing with people like that, being like outwardly honest doesn't end up helping you, because they're just going to twist things and make it to where like you're still being punished in some way. I have death here. Change, endings. This needs to end. This situation that you're in, it needs to be over. And you need to move on. Also, if you're a Scorpio, this is a sign that this message is for you. Same if you're a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. Definitely if you're a Libra, actually. There's like extra Libra energy here. And Aquarius. Okay. I'm looking and finding all these these aspirations here. So yeah, so Scorpio, we have death. And death doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? Sometimes things just end. It's over. Usually you learn your lesson from them. Sometimes things just happen. They're just crappy. You know, they say that you're meant to continue to live in these cycles until you learn your lessons from them. So until you stop playing into whatever it is about this dynamic that you find yourself getting stuck into repeatedly, then you're going to keep finding yourself in the same position. That's like what they say about like, you know, law of attraction and the, I don't want to say fate of the universe, but you know, like, it's just like, that's just what a lot of people say about like how to navigate this, like this mental, psychological battlefield that, you know, we often find ourselves in if we're continuing to perpetuate these conditional mindsets that other people have put onto us. You know, you've been conditioned to believe certain things and to think that you like deserve certain behaviors and certain treatment. And so we need to like move on from that. I would say also do not give into apathetic feelings about this. Don't just like be like, oh, well, what does it matter? Who cares? Like, don't give into that. I have King of Cups here too. I'm getting the feeling that this is the person you're dealing with. They're like a master manipulator. It's going to be right here under that dishonesty. So really this connection between you and that person needs to end. Whatever it is that's going on between y'all, it needs to be just done. I have Scorpio here for that as well. So let's go back around through these and make more connections between the cards. So with the dishonesty and your opportunity, I have Temperance here. So I think you're really going to need to find like moderation. I also have Sagittarius with this card. I think that you're going to have to, kind of like weigh your options and be like, that's just going to end up being a better situation for me, even if it might not be perfect. You know, if you're waiting around for the perfect opportunity to come, it's not going to. And so you're going to have to like find a balanced way to combat this. I also have Jupiter here on this card. And so that gives like expansion, you know what I mean? So whenever you make this decision and take this opportunity, you're going to, your life is going to expand in new ways that it hasn't before. I have the Emperor reversed. And so part of what's making the decision difficult for you is like this, yeah, a little bit of like stubbornness. There's also Aries is associated with this card. But I feel like part of what's like making this like decision difficult for you with like how to move on is like a part of your ego is definitely hurt here. And this person triggers your ego, and sometimes it makes you feel like you have to stay because you don't want them to win. What does that do for you? What does that do for you long term? To fight with somebody and to hold your life back because you don't want them to win. What is that doing for you? You know what I mean? And so you're really going to have to like take that first step and be more proactive in making this big change in your life. I have the Hanged Man reversed. Wow. This is like a few major arcana cards coming out at the same time. And I think that they're coming out because this is a big shift for you. This is like going to change your life. This is the end of this like cycle thing. Like you really have to hear this because this is going to be a part of what's helping you decide that you're done. You're not going to put up with it anymore. So I have the Hanged Man reversed here. It's associated with Pisces and Neptune. So kind of like this idealistic idea of life. And so it being put on its head a little bit, we're dealing with more ego here, an inability to change or fear of sacrifice, stalling and disinterest. So we have that with that Ace of Swords and that Queen of Swords. So that represents you for sure. There's like, you don't want to lose, right? And then there's also like this intense fear that you're going to miss out on something. And I just want to let you know that you're not going to miss out on anything. You're not going to miss out with somebody who is hurting you. It's not going to be part of your like fairy tale love story at the end of the day that like you know, like if you imagine telling your grandchildren how you guys met one day and you're going to have to skip over all the abusive stuff, like you got to move on, you know? We have Seven of Pentacles. As soon as you decide to leave this relationship and move on, you're going to be planting seeds for your future. And it's going to be hard work. It's not going to be super easy, but this is an investment into your future. This is an investment into your happiness, you know? And I have that over that Death card and the Queen of Swords. So like, as you're like kind of like building up your communication skills and like your battle skills whenever it comes to like dealing with people in this like abusive like mindset, that's going to be building up like your confidence, you know? So in this like next relationship, whenever you eventually have one again, you're going to have planted those seeds a little bit more. I also have Saturn with this card as well. And so Saturn Saturn punishes and rewards. So whenever we do what we're supposed to do, Saturn like gives us a reward, right? But whenever we find ourselves continuing to play in those same cycles again and again and again, that's why Saturn returns can be so difficult, because Saturn will punish. It's like, hey, you haven't learned your lesson. You haven't learned your lesson. So it's important for you to really learn this lesson of like not putting up with this type of behavior anymore. And then I have Five of Cups. So this is an acknowledgement that this is hurtful. This is sad. You don't want to walk away from it. Just like totally like disappointed. We have sadness, loss, grief, remorse, trauma, heartbreak, anger. And the Mars card there is another sign that it's time to, Mars can represent conflict, but it also represents action. So it's like your time to take action. I'm also getting a feeling too with it over the King of Cups and the Death that as soon as you start making these actual like plans to move away, this person is going to really show you like how sad it makes them. They're going to like start mourning you, and you're going to see that in them like trying to love bomb, then like trying to be as pathetic as possible. I'm getting that as well. They're going to try to be super pathetic so that you'll just stay. And this is your reminder that you really have to just like continue to make that exit out, because they'll do that over and over and over again, and you'll just be in this endless cycle. So I hope that this reading was helpful to you and was what you needed to hear. I'm going to move on to group 2. Oh, and if you like my video, please subscribe to my channel so you can help me get to my bigger overall goals. Appreciate you. Okay, if you chose group 2, then you chose the cat. We have self-care. I honor my well-being and treat myself with respect. Some other notes I have here is cats don't accept anything but the best or exactly what they want. You ever try keeping a door closed in a house with a cat? No, ma'am or sir. Nope. It's open because they want it to be open. Respecting yourself comes with prioritizing yourself, and then also other people see that, and then they can learn how to treat you because you've made it clear how you do not want to be treated. And then love yourself and take care of your body. Those are the notes that I took for the cat card here. So I don't think I need to like further elaborate. I feel like that's like pretty straightforward about what the cat wants, is that like self-care aspect. So let's just go ahead and dig into the other cards we have here. We have 8 of Pentacles. So commitment to some sort of project. I feel like you've just been working. You've just been grinding. And you're not taking care of yourself. I have Sun in Virgo here if you are maybe a Virgo sign or if you have it in your chart. But you're just like pushing and you're not giving yourself any reprieve. I have the Sun here. So manifestation and healing, I think, is like something that you maybe have been neglecting, but maybe it's coming out. I get the feeling that you're just having good days and you're just kind of feeling good. I get that here a little bit. And that's why you want to focus a little bit more on your self-care, is because you just like, you're feeling yourself and you're feeling better, you know, like it's been a while since you felt this good, even though you are working a lot. It's just that you kind of have like this positive outview about life right now. I have Knight of Wands. I feel like you're very passionate too about your work, and maybe that's why you're just like jumping into the grind and you're just like grinding things out. Like maybe this work that you're doing is something you've always wanted to do. I'm getting like self business, self-run, or maybe working in a field that you like feel very, passionate about, right? Extremely focused. So, and it's making you happy. But I do get the feeling that you might burn out, and that's kind of what this warning is going to be. Like I have 8 of Wands here. Like things are moving so fast. They're just like speeding. It's like you're on a high-speed rail. And I think that you're neglecting the self-care a little bit. So I think that maybe you need a bit of a break. I have Sagittarius here twice. You might be a Sagittarius. Otherwise, it's also it's kind of giving you a sign that you need to maybe take a break, go on a vacation or something like that, is what I'm getting from this as well. Because things are just like moving so fast. And even though like you are happy with it, I do feel like, I think you're leading to a burnout. Let's see though. I have 9 of Pentacles. So the things that you've been working towards are finally manifesting and finally like becoming, what's it called? You're receiving the abundance for the stuff that you've been doing, which is awesome. This is overall a really positive reading. I feel like I rarely get these. That's why I've been able to just like go through the cards, is because I'm just like, wow, good move, good move, good move. Like the biggest issue here is that you might just be a little too busy, which is like really not that big of a deal in the long run. And then I have Chariot here. So yeah, once again, you might be a Cancer, but also just like pushing and like making moves, making a big difference, you know? If we're connecting the cards here, I have like with the 8 of Pentacles and the Chariot and the 9 of Pentacles here, it's just like you've been working so hard for this thing and you're like really seeing results. It's kind of pushing you to like continue to push harder and faster, because like you're kind of like getting like what's it called, endorphins from it almost. Like you're just like, yes, win, you know, like that's just kind of what I'm getting from that. And so, okay, we have Wheel of Fortune reversed here. So some bad luck might be on the way whenever it does come to your job. And I think that it's going to be kind of like what's part of promoting your need for self-care right now is like, I'm sorry, Elsa. She's like, be quiet. She's an introverted dog. She's just like me. And so, yeah, I feel like there might be some sort of bad luck that's coming with your job. I don't want to give like bad like reading like that, but that's literally what's popping out. We have Wheel of Fortune reversed. So something's going to happen that like you had no control over, or maybe it has recently happened. So maybe you have been feeling that like you were super happy. You were like, go, like let's get it. But then now this like thing happened and it like threw a wrench into like what's going on. And I think it's that crash out, like you're burning out right now. And so you really need to like take some time to like have some self-care, because like this issue isn't going to be fixed by you working yourself into the ground. You're just going to have to like respect that you need to take a break. Yeah, the Empress here. This is another sign to engage in self-care. And yeah, we have Venus here. Maybe put a little bit more energy into your relationships as well. But I think the biggest relationship that they're kind of talking about here is with yourself. And so definitely listen to your intuition and treat yourself like how you want to be treated. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting in my mind like spa treatments. I'm getting like taking a bath. I'm getting like eating really nice food, something like that. Like just something for you that you need to just like take time to do and not be like constantly working. I have 4 of Pentacles reversed here. Overspending, greed, possessiveness, stinginess. And I think that's coming with that like you racing forward through like the stuff you're trying to do. So I think that maybe to make yourself happy, you're doing stuff like online shopping and buying things that you just really do not need. And I think that there's like a separation there between like self-care and then like, yeah, just like overspending. So like self-care is something that you know is going to like actually benefit your, it's not a band-aid, you know what I mean? It's like, it's actual like care that you need. And it's going to be something that takes time. It's not going to be something that's just like, oh, while I'm in between meetings, I'm just going to like buy a bunch of stuff online. It's going to be more like, okay, I'm going to take time off. I'm going to read my book in the bath, you know, leave my cell phone on the charger, you know, or like, I'm just going to rest this evening, or like, I'm just going to like really focus on a game, or like, you know, just something that like really is like a break for you and like a moment of self-care. And not something that's just like blowing money. The greed and stinginess kind of like draws out to me too, because it's just like, in what ways are you using your money as like almost like a weapon against other people? You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of like getting that in some way. Something that pops into my mind is going on dates so that people will pay for stuff for you is something that's popping up in my mind. And that's not really a form of self-care. I get the feeling that you might be framing it that way so that like you can justify doing this, but it's not really a form of self-care to like use somebody else to pay for something for you. I think if it's somebody who genuinely loves and cares about you and wants to do something nice for you because they love you, then that's very different than like almost like exploiting someone to like use their money. You know what I mean? So I get that feeling here. I have 7 of Cups here. You have many possibilities before you. And so that's what that like, that rushing around and being busy like aspect comes with. But also with that abundance, you know? So like that, like having all these like different options of things that you can do, is definitely making you feel busy. So I feel like maybe, you know, I'm getting the feeling of like, I had Sagittarius twice in here. And so I had talked about like going on vacation, but I get the feeling that maybe actually you're traveling too much. I think for some of you, like maybe a vacation is needed, but it'd be one that's like, you know, for setting your mind right versus like, I'm going to go here and do this and spend all this money. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like in that way that it's not really helpful to you right now. And then we got Knight of Wands again. So we got it twice in this reading. So really, really pushing that energy forward. And I have that with the Chariot and your abundance. So passion, energy, adventure, impulsiveness, and action. So yeah, this reading a little bit is a little all over the place. Maybe that's how you're feeling mentally, is a little bit all over the place. Like you're just working hard. Things are really busy. Things are moving fast. You might be spending money in areas that aren't necessarily like helpful to you, versus like spending money on things that will actually benefit you. I'm getting maybe in my mind that like, if you have something at home that needs to be tended to, but you're avoiding spending money on it because you want to spend money on like, a new purse or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like focus on like your home aspect. I know also with Sagittarius energy, like Sagittarius people like hate being at home. Like they don't really care what their home is like because they want to travel and go do a bunch of stuff and be everywhere. Obviously that's like not all Sagittarius people. I know some Sagittarius people who have like a very chill vibe house and, you know, their place is nice and everything, but there's also a lot of Sagittarius people that like, they'd rather take the cut. Sorry, excuse the big truck that's driving by right now. They'd rather take, oh, it's multiple trucks. Okay. They'd rather, and like work trucks, you know, like filled with sand, not like, you know, just like douches, like just for no reason. They were like actual work trucks. But yeah, that Sagittarius energy of, a lot of them like don't really care. They could live in a shoebox. They don't care because they want to go travel around and stuff like that. So I'm really getting the vibe that like there are things that you need to tend to that are like actual necessity needs. And those are the ways that you might be ignoring the self-care that you really need, is like the feeling I'm getting there. And that this like bad luck that you're getting in your job is kind of the universe's way of being like, hold on, stop, take a breather, chill, relax. You know, like it's kind of like telling you that, this like moment of like bad luck that you feel that you've come into. Because I feel like there's like that with that overspending, I'm almost getting a feeling of like overindulgence and maybe like a little bit of entitlement. So definitely focus on yourself is really what I'm getting. Focus on yourself, focus on what you need. And if you feel like there's too many things everywhere and you don't know what you want to do, take a moment to like just like meditate on it a little bit and really figure out like what it is that you need that would like be healing for your soul or be healing for your body or like something like that. Something in that way is going to be like where you need to focus your energy on. So yeah, that's what I have for group 2. If you liked my reading, please subscribe. I'm trying to get to a certain number of subscribers so that I can meet some of my goals. So if you like what I do, please subscribe to me. If not, well, either way, I'll see you next time. Okay. For group 3, we have Crow. The theme is messenger. I pay attention to clues from the universe. So I wrote a few other notes here. I have, their calls are iconic and a way to communicate with one another. You know, we can notice a crow call, right? We recognize it. Stop dominating the conversation and listen. That's not only with your relationships, but also with the universe. Like take a moment to stop and listen. Stop like putting out so much. You know what I mean? Like just like be still, you know? Messages and answers come to us in all forms, like dreams, emotions, or song lyrics. Overlooked messages turn into insomnia, exhaustion, physical illness, or stress in your relationships. And understand your inner voice. Those are all the notes I wrote for this. I feel like they're pretty self-explanatory and pretty direct about what it is that we need to jump into with this card, but definitely there are messages from the universe all around you and you're not listening because you might be a little bit too focused on like petty things or, you know, just like instant gratification stuff. And maybe also avoiding being alone is what I'm getting as well. I have Page of Pentacles here. Some of you guys might be students. I'm getting that vibe right now with the study. You're learning something new and you're really like putting your energy into that, is what I'm getting here. So maybe that's what's keeping you super busy. I have Knight of Swords too. And so you're really like pushing it forward too. I really like, for me, swords is communication big time. Also intelligence, you know, of course, like learning new things. But so the Knight of Swords is kind of telling me that you're like driving into like this thing that you're learning. The Page of Pentacles too. Pentacles is more like material, but I'm just really getting the feeling that this might be like a student. So you're just like really like putting all of your energy into learning something new. I don't know if you also work part-time or what might be going on with that. I also have Gemini here. We have 5 of Pentacles. And so I get a feeling you're going through a tough time, or you might be like, what I get from 5 of Pentacles a lot is like needing a connection with somebody who will weather tough times with you. Because I feel like it can be lonely whenever like you're hanging out with people who like don't really have your back like that. You know what I mean? And so I get with this Knight of Swords that you might be putting a lot of energy into people who aren't going to weather the storm with you. They might be people who like think it's no big deal for like you to spend money on them, but like if you ask them for like a hair tie, they're gonna ask for it back. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like you might be putting a lot of effort into that. I mean, this card, Knight of Swords, also has outgoing on the card, activist. So I feel like you're really, really pouring a lot of energy into, I'm thinking like a group of people who are not like putting that energy back into you. I have Page of Swords, another page card. You're like really having to learn right now. I'm getting from this, like in this connection with this reading, that you're struggling with like how to communicate your boundaries. I think you've just never had to really do it before. And so you're having difficulty, and you're kind of having to like learn how to do this and how to communicate this. And you're also having to learn like what exactly with that Pentacles energy, you know what I mean? I just feel like there's like this like material loss that you have from these like this friendship. I don't know if it's like because they're using your house. I'm getting like they're using your house too much, or you're just like paying for things that you should not be paying for. And then you're like being forced into this position because you failed to set boundaries ahead of time, where it's just like, well, how do I do it now? Like they've already taken over. How do I say what I need to say? You know, and you're receiving messages from the universe about like how to do this, but or like that these relationships are not good for you, but you're just kind of ignoring them and ignoring that you need to do something. You know, that Knight of Swords energy needs to get flipped around. Instead of like focusing on like how to meet their needs, you need to focus it back on like how to meet your own needs. I have 10 of Cups here. I think this is really what you want. You want like a loving community where people help each other, but you can't do it on your own. You know, there's this phrase out there that's like in like bad relationships, it's like you can't love them enough to make up for I can't even say it right, but it's like you can't love someone enough to where it makes up for their lack of love. You know what I mean? Like I can't love enough for the two of us, I think is how it goes. You can't love someone enough for the two of you. Like, so you can't do all of the work. You can't like have this like fantasy friendship relationship with these people where like you do everything and they just benefit from it, and then that somehow equals out to like being like an equal relationship. It's just not like that. Like people have to put in as much energy as you're putting in, and that's why they say to focus on like allowing yourself to be alone, because then whenever you're alone and you like really value your own peace, whenever people come in and disrupt that peace, you notice, you know, versus like making relationships with people who aren't doing that, you know. And they're out there are plenty of people that are like doing their own thing. They're doing what you're doing. They're like studying, bettering their life, like, you know, different stuff like that. And they're not funneling everything that they have into people who don't deserve it. You know, that's what I'm getting with that for sure. I have the Emperor. I feel like also what you might be dealing with is somebody who is very pushy and entitled to your time. You know, they think that you don't need to set boundaries with them. They should just be able to do whatever they want, you know, is what I'm getting from that situation. I have Aries here as well, but control, irresponsibility. So these people are kind of expecting you to pick up the bill for like their mistakes. I get the feeling that this might be a roommate situation maybe, or it could be friends. It's something like that, where these people are really just, they're breaking you. You know, they're leading you to poverty, because they just feel so entitled to what you have, you know. I ended up pulling an extra card here. This card is Knight of Pentacles, represents Virgo, but also we have gifted, but we also have greedy, outgoing, triumphant. And so I get the feeling that that's like the energy that you're really having to work with. Like your Knight of Swords, you know, you're like being extremely direct about like what it is that you want, but these people are just kind of like, they're just taking, you know what I mean? And they're working just as hard as you are, but to take, you know, not to give back in any sort of way. And yeah, with that Emperor card, there's really just like this like masculine energy of like I mean that is in like toxic masculinity. There's positive masculinity, but that like that toxic masculinity of like, I'm owed everything, I don't need to work for things, like, you know, like people who think that the government should assign them like a wife, like, you know, like those types of people. I'm getting like that vibe and that energy from this person, that they really, really just feel entitled to what you have, which means that they're likely like narcissistic, right? Because people who are narcissistic don't see others as separate from themselves. They just see them as a part of themselves. It's also why they're big on projection. Every single thought they have, they're going to accuse you of it. That's why they say accusations are confessions. So that's the vibe I'm getting with this person here. I have 9 of Wands reversed, exhaustion, fatigue, struggle, defense, paranoia. I feel like that's what you're dealing with in this relationship. And I feel like that's also like kind of like part of what you're learning as well. Like you're trying really hard to like maintain everything. You're trying to like study for what you need to study for. You're trying to like take care of the bills and take care of stuff. But this person is just like a sponge. So they're just like pulling and pulling and pulling from you. And it's making you exhausted. And 9 of Wands, like right side up, is usually like for me like having to do with like you've like accumulated like these boundaries, so now you can like kind of start like building like the society and the life that you want for yourself. You know, you've worked hard to get to where you are, and so you have worked hard, but because this person feels like they can just take things from you, you're in this like really exhausted like mindset of like having to be like defensive, and you're like paranoid about what's going on because you're dealing with this type of like energy where people just like take from you, you know? And I don't think it's necessarily paranoid, but I think the reason paranoia and defensiveness is coming up is because you're in a position where you shouldn't have to be so worried, you know? And sometimes when people like make you crazy because like they're behaving in ways that just like make no sense, then you do end up being a little bit paranoid because you question every single thing they do. You're just like, oh my gosh, like, what does that mean? What does this mean? You know, and a lot of times it doesn't really mean anything. All it means is that they're selfish and they want to mess with you, and they want you to feel paranoid, and they want you to be defensive, because then they can look at you and be like, wow, you're so defensive. Like, wow, you know, like you think people care about you, you know, like whatever it is that they're trying to pull. And the universe is trying to tell you like to get away from that, you know? I have the moon reversed. So confusion, misinterpretation, fear, repressed emotions. I feel like that things are getting bottled up while you're with this person, and I feel like that whole like trying to please them energy that you're putting into it is really just like coming up with nothing, and it's making you confused. I also have Pisces here and Neptune, so like this like over idealistic like dreamy aspect, but in the way of like, I think that this is like kind of like attacking your subconscious, so you might be having trouble sleeping. You might be feeling like not really hopeful about the future, you know, like, and things like that, because like there's this like, you have this idea that if you just make that person happy, they'll stop, but that's not going to happen. You really are just going to have to like remove this person from your space, or you might have to leave the space, whatever it ends up being. And that's going to be the only way to redirect that energy. I have Judgment here. I think that you might hold judgment for yourself, which is why you have ended up in this situation in the first place. You know, this person's red flags were not red flags to you. And it's like, well, why? You know, so you're going to have to analyze why exactly you weren't picking up on it. You know what I mean? And go through like the different red flags where it's just like, wow, they did this and they did that. And not to like pummel yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what you don't know. You know, I'm also getting like a vibe here that like you're young. I'm getting that like, and this might be like the first time you've dealt with a situation like this. So it's like really confusing because, whenever, like when I was in high school, I really liked this guy, and he, you know, was really sweet to me over text messages, and we talked for a while, and then, you know, we went on like one date, and things didn't go as far physically as he wanted things to go. And literally as soon as he left, he immediately told me that this wasn't working. And I was totally confused. I had never dealt with that before. I had never dealt with somebody like going through the motions of like pretending they liked me to like get something. Of course, like whenever you get older, you learn that that's just how men are, even though like not all men are like that, but like that's just how men are. But it's hurtful. It's deceptive. It doesn't make sense. You know, if you're a person who looks at the world as in like people are authentically themselves, then it doesn't make sense to you for somebody to be dishonest and deceptive, to use and exploit you, and then discard you. It makes absolutely no sense. So I get the feeling that like this is the first time you've been in a situation like this where someone is just straight up exploiting you. And so you've never had to like have these boundaries with someone before. Like this is the very first time you're like being challenged in this way, because these people don't stop. You know, you might stand up for yourself in small ways, and then they'll pretend like they understand, and they'll pretend like they get it. Like they'll be all like, "Oh, I didn't know that was hurting you. Okay, well then I'm gonna work better on it," and then they don't. You know, and that's one of the it's really, really hard to set boundaries, and it's extremely hard to hold boundaries. After you've gotten them both down, it becomes easier. It becomes much easier to just tell people no, because you end up realizing it's not worth it. It's not worth it to just like let people like run all over you. You know what I mean? Because then it ends up like infiltrating every single part of your life. They do not stop, you know? It starts to get, I don't know if you're at this point, but sometimes too, it also gets to the point where it's just like you can't even sleep because they're bothering you at night. They're working around the clock 24/7 to like abuse you, right? And so you don't get like any time to yourself. But what I'm saying with this judgment card is that there might be things that you are like, there might be conditions other people have put onto you that makes you judge yourself, right? So you might have been told a lot in your life that maybe you were really lazy, or maybe that you're selfish, or like this or that, because like whenever people are using you and abusing you, they call you those things. Like I said, projections, right? They're going to call you the things that they are. And also they're going to exploit you. Like if you're somebody who's very giving, they're going to call you selfish, because it's going to make you continue to give and give and give. And every time that you give and you don't give enough, or you don't meet whatever expectation they had in that moment, they might not even have one. They might just be wanting to hurt you. So they're going to just like call you selfish, so you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So whenever you're able to release that judgment you're holding for yourself, it's going to open you up, and it's going to free you from people using that stuff against you, because they will. People will see like, oh, she's really giving. If I make her feel guilty, she'll give me more. So I'm just going to make her feel guilty all the time. You know, so like, that's what I'm getting with this. So take some time with reflecting. I feel like this like awakening, I feel like you're waking up to this like for the first time. And then transitions, change, and decisions. Yeah, that's what I'm getting here. And I'm also getting that with the Page of Swords. I feel like you're learning how to do this. You're at this aspect, and you're at this like breaking point with the Five of Pentacles that you're like, I don't want to put up with this anymore. And so the Judgment is telling you like, okay, death and rebirth at this point, because we have Pluto energy also with this card. So it's literally like, okay, I'm not doing it anymore, right? I know who I am. I know that I am a giving person. I know that I'm a generous person, you know, and I know that that person is using that to exploit me. And I'm going to continue to be a genuine person, to be a giving person, but I'm not going to be someone's punching bag, right? And that's where you have to find your medium, you know what I mean? And like release that judgment of yourself, because like, you know you're a good person, right? Sit there and think about like the things that you've done with like no expectation out of it at all. You know what I mean? Just because you have kindness in your heart. You don't have to let that die to protect yourself. You know, you can still be a kind and giving person. When people take from you and when they feel entitled to your stuff, they're not people who need they're not people that need you to give things to them. They're just not. You know what I mean? The people that need you are the people who are going to give back when they can. You know what I mean? And people who show it, you know? If you have somebody who like, you bought them coffee this day, next day they're going to buy you coffee. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you cooked me food. I appreciated it so much. Now I'm going to cook you food. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I like didn't have enough money for this. And then, you know, later whenever you don't have the money, they like have it for you. You know what I mean? People who like genuinely care, and not people who just take like what you're giving and just like take. I have Page of Swords reverse. So we have Page of Swords twice. We have manipulation, deception, haste, and hazard action here. And that's with that 10 of Cups and over the Page of Swords. And I think that that's just a reminder to you that like, you don't need those aspects in like this relationship that you want. That 10 of Cups world that you want, where you have like a community that's there for you and takes care of you, and you have like a mutual friendship and mutual like, you know, things with each other. That's like, what happened? I've totally like missed my connection here. Dang it. But you get what I'm saying. That the manipulation, those two connecting points with this, you don't need to put up with manipulation. That's what I'm trying to say. You don't need to put up with manipulation to have that perfect family and have that perfect like community. You know what I mean? It ends up hurting you. Okay, and then I have justice reversed. Dishonesty, unfairness, imbalance, bias, adjournment, discredit, and lies. We also have Venus and Libra here with that justice reversed. And that is going over that the Emperor card where I said that this person is just taking from you. And so what I'm getting there is that there is no justice in the way that they're behaving. And there's also what I'm getting as well is, the unfairness, that imbalance, the bias. Don't try to make sense of what they're doing or what they're saying or anything. Bottom line is they want to get what they want, and they're going to say and do whatever it takes to get what it is. That's it. There's no like trying to understand someone who's showing narcissistic traits. I'm not going to call them a narcissist. I don't know them. But someone who's showing narcissistic traits. And people can show them for a variety of reasons. They don't have to be narcissistic personality disorder. People can just like be asleep, honestly, and they're just not aware of what they're doing. People can be hurt by what happened in their past, and they just have decided to just click off consciousness and just behave in ways that are instinctual. And because like whenever you do get to know a lot of these people who just like, they just like don't actively, consciously make any decisions. When you get to know them, they're extremely selfish, you know, and they don't think about anything. They cheat whenever, they steal whenever, you know, they say mean things. They feel extremely challenged by things that are different than what they know because they don't know anything. They're asleep. These people also usually say, that's the way I was raised about everything, you know, whenever it's just like, okay, but that's just like the first like 18 years of your life. The rest of your life, you're supposed to grow and learn and continue to change and, you know, progress with society, right? So these are just like bottom of the barrel people, right? So they're not conscious. They're not thinking. They're not awake. There is no logic behind what they're doing because it's instinctual, you know? They're going to try to find your soft spots and poke at them. And if you try to ask them why they do it, they probably legitimately don't know. And that's where you're going to get a lot of your answers from too. If you were to ask this person, why do you do this to me? And they don't have an actual answer, they don't know. They just do it. That's it. You know, there's not much logic behind it. And so wasting time and energy in your life trying to like navigate this relationship so that you can make it work is just not, it's just going to end up being a waste of your time. So I'm really getting the feeling that it's just time for you to move on and either leave the situation or remove them from the situation is really what I'm getting with this. And you'll sleep better. I'll tell you that much with that moon reversed. You're going to sleep much better whenever they're not in your life anymore. Listen to the universe. Listen to what it's telling you. It's telling you it's time to move on. So yeah, that is the rest of your reading. If it resonated with you, please subscribe. I'm trying to meet a goal. So if you get added to my subscribers, then you'll help me get one step closer to that. So thanks and have a good rest of your day.